Cool. Right. So we're just doing a bit more RAG today, using some different models. And this will allow us to demonstrate the agent's ability to select tools. So let's start by preparing our environment. Let's use something like this. This will allow us to download Stable Diffusion and this I don't think is inside of the lesson, so I'll share this with you guys. Does anybody already have Stable Diffusion or has played around with AI or image generating models?
Yeah, not say is it you said stable diffusion? Is that the name of it?
Yeah. So let's see, where should I send this? I'm gonna send this in Slack. And then there's also this command which will download a different model, realistic vision. And what that allows us to do is to be able to generate images. So me and my Spider-Man meme obsession made a image of Spider-Man with spaghetti. Let's see if I can be a little more creative right now. Let's
How I mean, how do so this is a Bedrock or is this AWS model?
it's an open source model actually, or not open source, is it? We are going to be downloading this from Hugging Face.
Okay.
So
So yeah, open source. I was just wondering how like whoever created it gets around copyright laws for like Spider-Man.
didn't we talk about this last time? I think there was a conversation about, I might be mixing up context, but I could have sworn somebody here pointed out that they read somewhere that nothing created by AI is copyrightable.
Well, no, cr cr we talked about some of it and the difference, like how laws haven't quite caught up. Um, I think that makes sense that it couldn't be copyrightable because it's more there would be more than because copyright how copyright law works, there's if there's a certain amount of overlap with something that's previously been created, then you can't claim that it's yours. And just the way generative AI works, it is made from something else. So there
Mhm.
would be a certain amount of overlap. But my point is Spider-Man is copyrighted.
Right.
So um it just violated a copyright by generating something, right? So I'm just
Do,
curious how
so
the
when my
model
son
gets around
draws a
that.
Spider-Man, when my son draws a Spider-Man, is he violating copyright laws?
Well, so I think technically anytime you sing happy birthday, you're violating a copyright law.
Correct. And
So,
so the laws are only good as they are
course,
enforceable,
yeah,
and you're not going to enforce this, especially like they're not going to go after Julius if he's not making any money that
not
off of this.
Julia, but they could require that anything that is capable of creating this be pulled down from Hugging Face. So that's my point is that why
They
is
could
there not?
try, but they're not going to succeed.
True.
Like back to, is my son going to get in trouble for drawing a Spider-Man?
But the government can't see, like no one first would bring the suit. Like two, no one knows that it's happening versus it is perfectly uh understandable or one could expect that this model could generate something that has copyright infringement on it. So like in theory, they could go after, I don't know who owns Hugging Face, or even if it's a US company, or I know it's all open source, but I'm just curious if like there has to be an entity tied to it in theory. I think there's probably some kind of legal disclaimers on it saying that we have, no whatever of
Exactly. Like we're a
stuff that
platform, not a
yeah.
publisher.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just thinking of like, if then you go and post this on your website, would you be liable for posting something that's obviously copyright, or would the generator of the model be liable, or would Hugging Face for hosting a model that didn't have filters on this kind of content that says like you can't create something that's obviously um copyright? Anyway, just random thoughts.
Right
You
on.
should take it to court and find out.
I'm sure it's been done, or will be done if it hasn't already. Some lawyer's thinking about it in the next year. I'm sure we'll see it.
Well, let's see what the license says. Creative ML, OpenRealM. Multi-modal generative models are being widely adopted and used and have the potential to transform the way artists, among other individuals, conceive and benefit from AI or ML technologies as a tool for content creation. So, blah, 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 blah. In short, this license strives for both the open and responsible downstream use of the accompanying model. So let's see. License means the terms and conditions for use, blah, blah, blah. Okay, here we go. Both copyright and patent grants apply to the model, derivatives of the model, and complementary material.
Anyway, so that one just says basically that like you can like what you create with the model is yours. Um, that's what number one is. There, the two there was.
Interesting.
I don't, you're going too fast for me to read the other one, but
Yeah, usually this copyright stuff only matters if you're making money off of it. Like if Julius was to take this Spider-Man and say, "Hey, this is mine," and make a show and make money or sell it in some way, shape, or form, then the owners of Spider-Man could come after him. I think technically the owners of Spider-Man could come after him even just for generating it, but they're not going to win. And it'd be dumb because they're going to be like, "Hey, Julius," they wouldn't be able to prove any damages by that unless they could, which I don't think they can in this case. Spider-Man with spaghetti, that's pretty tame.
yeah, but if it's Spider-Man with a Coca-Cola, that would be potentially some kind of like implying that Marvel, you know, endorses one over another.
Sure, sure. Now, I guess the argument would be like, how much damage did that actually do? Julius showing this in our class or something like that is not
Versus
going to be
maybe,
any.
yeah, but maybe he puts it on his LinkedIn or something, and it implies that, you know, that there's a sponsorship.
Yes, so it's not inherently the generation that's the problem. It's the, I guess, the downstream effects and the uses of it. That's
I
when
don't
it co
know. I don't if
crosses into the
I
threshold of being an issue.
perhaps I know like if I had a character or something that I was tied to, I had created, and then a model, like somebody created a something that I don't agree with or something, right? I would probably take offense to that. So
Sure,
I just think like and again, that's just like how some folks don't like, certain politicians using certain songs or something. So then like the author of the song doesn't, sues them to not be able to continue to use that information. So you'd have to find it, and then you could potentially sue that person. Okay, don't generate any more images of my thing, and there'd be a restraining order on that or something, but or cease and desist or something. It's just there's so much. It's going to be so complex in the next few years. Anyway, sorry to sidetrack the class.
Oh no, this is a great conversation, and I love where it's going. I mean, you're right. At the end of the day, like it's going to be getting crazy, and it's something that we're all still navigating, right? Because it's just really blown up within the past few years.
The
It's
past year, yeah.
it's really wild how rapidly it's evolving. So that's right. We're just, at the edge of our seats trying to figure it all out together. So yesterday, I'll go on a tangent myself. There was actually an AI subcommittee that Rod put together consisting of some of the founders of Platoon and some other, I think, alumni from some of the earliest cohorts. It involved a few people like Paul Knudsen, who is very high up in the C-suite at Accenture. It also had a few Google employees. There was one that is actually working on Google DeepMind right now. And the discussion was largely on AI, of course, hence it being an AI subcommittee. But what we were trying to get at from them was what would make our graduates most hireable when it comes to AI skills. And it led to some very interesting conversation, not a lot of very clear or distinct answers. But I guess the point is, how can we have the clear answers when we're still going through all of this together, right? So what we're seeing is the speed of innovation almost essentially outpacing our our known capability to change, right? We are it's radical. I mean, I don't really have the words for it aside from that. It's causing this disruption in the market, and we're really going to have to shift because there's nothing else that we can do. We have to adapt, right? So it can be very frightening because we hear a lot of doom and gloom about jobs being replaced or software engineers becoming irrelevant. It's definitely going to become less relevant to be able to, I don't know, do some of the more, I guess, not foundational, that's not the word. Let me put it this way. It's great that you guys are in a boot camp versus pursuing like a computer science degree, which would take like 4 years, right? Because we're moving a little too fast for that. We're even talking about setting up new programs here at Platoon that are shorter than what we have now, because even the daytime program, 15 weeks is a long time. So we're thinking about creating classes that are shorter, that are more focused on upskilling. That's what's happening at Accenture right now. Internally, they are upskilling. Like that is the focus. Everybody is a builder. You're not just a developer or a designer. Regardless of what your skill is, inside of Accenture, you are a builder. You are expected to adopt AI tools, agentic coding, agentic workflows, and be able to essentially build, right, with those tools. I'm sure you all have heard about statistics and engineers saying, well, I haven't written a line of code in months. And that's actually where things are trending, right? Claude was entirely built by, I guess, Claude itself. And it was just human beings, people, uh, guiding and maneuvering it, steering it. We are, what is that? What is that? Have you guys heard the term reverse centaur? Okay, cool. Cool. Kathleen's nodding her head.
Yeah.
So this idea that we are shifting to the opposite of what we had before, which is humans utilizing AI tools to AI tools utilizing humans. I don't know if I want to be that pessimistic about it, but when I think about, I guess, large companies like Uber, that's sort of already happening already, right? Where people are being exploited, not necessarily by AI, by larger organizations, corporations, of course, but it's all still rapidly evolving. I'm not didn't mean to go down like this road of, I don't know, exploitation and doom and gloom, but another point is, no, maybe I'll go back to that later, actually. I'm not going to go down that road. Let's see what else was talked about yesterday. So there's speed of innovation, there's agents doing all of this coding. That's what really matters. Builders, one of the key things about the builders is that they are able to leverage and solve real world problems. Like that was a big topic of discussion. I'm sure you've all heard the term before about being a force multiplier. That is what's in demand. Blurring the lines is what's in demand. And when it comes down to how you summarize all of these skills, it's hard to really pin down. But some of the trends that we do see in what companies are looking for are pretty much just leadership skills, problem solving skills, your ability to communicate and articulate and express ideas, to lead and guide and solve problems fast. And then not only solving problems, actually identifying the problems in the first place and how to solve them. That's going to be very critical, a lot more critical than, knowing how to do abstract things like working with programming languages like Haskell, for example, not as important anymore. So things like that, things like understanding good versus bad usage, things like understanding how to recognize when AI is leading you down a bad path and how to course correct, that's what is key. You need to be able to know how to articulate how you're working with it. So leadership skills, not only in communicating with your team, with other people, but with agents as well. You're essentially just managing agents now. Everyone's a product manager as well, right? That's that's sort of what this is, the direction that this is all trending towards. So reskilling inside of Accenture is a big thing right now. And that can range from the most beginner level education to some more advanced things. So there's awareness training, 2-hour workshops on how to work with agents, modular training on how to orchestrate with agents. That's a big thing too. We're seeing a lot of talk about orchestration because sitting down in front of an AI, just prompting it, that's just an initial phase. And even that is getting outpaced fast. We are seeing things like uh, OpenClaw, Perplexity. Have you guys heard of, oh, what is that called? I just, there's a new, let me see. Let me see what this is. A Swarm CLI agents. Oh, what is the name? Okay, if this comes back to me. I was just looking this up yesterday too. I installed it on my other computer. Hold on, let me see real quick what this was. It's swarm-based agentic CLI tool. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, can remind me what it's called, that would be great. And it was
What's the question?
this was just released recently, but it's essentially a swarm-based CLI agentic coding tool. It's really interesting how it works. It's kind of very radically different from how uh, agents as we know it currently operate. And it's the interesting thing is how that's going to allow uh, for some of the current shortcomings and weaknesses of agentic coding to be resolved, to get around it. For example, if we think about how we prompt agents, giving them very large, abstract uh, prompts generally is not effective. You want to be more direct and exact. But with this tool, it's actually the opposite. You want to be abstract. You want to give general overarching ideas because specificity is was not the goal for this tool. And how it works is basically, oh, I'm not even gonna try to put it into words. It's like it blows my mind. It's wild. I can't wait to sit down and play around with it. It utilizes basically a context threading pattern. What else? I think I finally found it. Let's see what else. What else? What else?
When you say context threading pattern, you mean like how they do the butterfly testing?
Uh, you explain more?
A pattern testing.
Uh,
When they're testing memory, uh,
I don't think so. Not quite. Oh, there it is. There it is. Slate. It's just Slate. Let's see.
there's a bunch of rays.
All right. Let's see. Y'all see this? Y Combinator backed Random Labs launches Slate V1, claiming the first swarm native coding agent. So the software engineering world is currently wrestling with a fundamental paradox. Models become more capable. The system's problem of managing them has become the primary bottleneck to real-world productivity. While a developer might have access to the raw intelligence of the frontier model, that intelligence often degrades the moment a task requires a long horizon or a deep context window. So let's see. And that's where this tool comes into play. The tool utilizes a dynamic pruning algorithm to maintain context in very large code bases while while scaling output to enterprise complexity. So the true innovation of the thread weaving approach lies in how it handles memory. Most agents today rely on compaction, which is often just a fancy term for loss decompression that risks dropping critical project state. Slate instead generates episodes. When a worker thread completes a task, it doesn't return a sprawling transcript of every failed attempt. It returns a compressed summary of the successful tool calls and conclusions. And essentially, a master orchestrator will converge all of these to compile what a single agent would do otherwise. So it's kind of wild. I think the it'll be very interesting to see how shifts like this influence and steer trends.
So
Oh, go
if
on.
I understand correctly, the fundamental change here is instead of doing the thing that I think Claude was doing or Claude Code was doing for a while and GitHub Copilot now does is with that compact when the context window gets too big, instead it's basically doing that in a different way. Scroll back up a little bit. I think the words were right in that paragraph that you have kind of cut off a little bit more up.
Mhm.
There we go. So most agents today rely on compaction, then this, which risks dropping, yeah, it kind of decides what to keep and what not to keep. Versus what it's now doing is it returns a compressed summary of all of these successful tool calls and conclusions. Is that the fundamental difference here? The episodic memory and the swarm?
Yes, yeah. It's think about it like at least I'm thinking about it like how we're able to see like parallel threads now. I think Cursor lets you do this. You could select like how many agents you want to call with the same prompt. It's doing that at like a way larger scale. That's how I'm interpreting it, at least. This is very new. This, I think, March 13th, very recent. I personally have not had a chance to play around with it. Oh, that was yesterday. With it too much myself yet. I installed it, that was about as far as I was able to get. So this is out right now. You can use npm install to install random labs slate.
Yeah, it's interesting because the whole compaction thing that they started recently, at least I started using it recently, made a big difference. When my context window gets big, I noticed before the model would degrade very rapidly. It would get the most basic stuff confused and it would get useless. And I had to trash it and start a new chat window and basically copy. I'd tell the old chat, hey, make a summary of everything. I'd copy and paste that summary to the new chat window and it would have that summary, but that summary is only so good.
Right.
That was the old way I did it. Now they have the compaction, which works, but I have one thread. I'm trying to push it to see how far I can go. One thread that's like I've been messaging multi-days, lots and lots of code writing. And even then, I know stuff that's far enough back has been compacted to the point where it no longer remembers. Like it forgot to source my virtual environment. And I'm like, that's such a basic thing. You think it would have that somewhere in there. So, and this is supposed to be kind of like a solution to that, a better version.
I
Yeah.
mean, my solution for that is generally I have anytime I do anything important, I say provide a summary within a Claude, like I have my running Claude MD file,
And you
markup
stick it all
file.
in there.
And yeah, so for each of my directories or each project that I'm working, because I have that same kind of problems that like it'll be great for like a week, or I will have done a lot of stuff, and then all of a sudden either it won't open correctly because it won't match my directory to what chat that I'm doing, or sometimes the compaction
It's
yeah,
compacting too much.
it's too
It's
much.
dropping
Yeah.
important details.
Yeah. So that I have anytime I do anything significant,
Hey, put a
I say
summary in a persisted file.
yeah.
Okay.
That way I just like, oh, check. And then whenever I do anything else, I'm like, okay, read Claude
So you have
MD,
the
refresh
context
your
fresh.
memory. Yeah.
Yeah,
Every
yeah.
time that it compacts, I ask it to read the Claude MD for current status and everything too.
Ooh, that's smart. Okay.
That's exactly what you want to be doing. Experimenting and playing around with what works and being able to share those skills with your team, with other teams in your organization. That's essentially where this conversation yesterday kept drifting. We're seeing so much radical change. It really is hard to pin down what skills will make uh, somebody more hireable. What we weren't hearing was there wasn't like a lot of name dropping of tools to use, strategies to use, anything. It was very broad and generalized, not specific. It's not like you want to learn this certification or that certification or this language or that language or work with this framework or work with that framework. It was very broad, what uh, was being pointed out and called out during yesterday's call. So things like this, when we're seeing like big shifts in the market towards automation and orchestration. We've talked about this before, right? That's sort of like the natural next step in the evolution. When you think about the DevOps pipeline, it starts with development, a single instance on a local machine, and that gets pushed, that gets automated. We learn how to repeat the release of this through a pipeline. We have that. We then learn how to scale, how to orchestrate, and that's what's happening now. Oh, there's a mention of the Ralph loop, uh, AMP handoffs. I actually have not had a chance to work with AMP a lot. I've installed it, but I haven't used it. Here, oh, compaction in Claude code is notoriously bad, in their opinion. So these are some of the existing examples of compression that Slate aims to solve. To avoid the lossiness of compaction, we can instead try to isolate the unimportant context, and this is where the sub-agents come in. So we're just seeing a lot of sub-agents. They are a second naive solution to working memory in isolation. Sub-agents work relatively well. They isolate context. This isolation means that the naive implementation may also transfer information across context boundaries, since all it returns is a response message.
Yes. So instead of including all of the clutter that comes from the main agent, his context here, its context window getting cluttered with all of the failed responses and all of the stack traces and everything like that, it's instead subbing out a lot of that work to a sub agent. And so all it's recording in memory is, hey, I told this agent to do this, and it gave me back this. What exactly happened in there doesn't matter so much because that's where a lot of the clutter comes from. So you're cutting all that out, and now you just have a record of, hey, I told this agent to do this, it returned this, and that's way more compact and probably keeps a lot more of the context important information. Does that sound about right?
Exactly, exactly. So when we talk about orchestration and how to do these things, if you could talk through it, you could, in theory, build a system to develop that, right? I've been working on my own orchestration tool. I think I told you guys this last time. It is, I almost don't even want to talk about this right now. But I'll talk about it. It's probably, it's rudimentary. I would say it's pretty rudimentary. It's utilizing fast API. It's running essentially a daemon on your system. And I'm not utilizing any existing automation or orchestration tools. I thought about it. I'm not using things like Windmill or Temporal or even Airflow. We use Airflow at Innova. It was an option, but I decided to go completely custom, and it's interesting. It's I've been able to do some really funny things like having conversations between agents just like self-perpetuate. An agent perpetually calling itself after it completes a task to expand on that. And really what all that is beneath the hood is just being able to, like Kathleen said, save context and then load that context. You could have a Python script or a bash script, a shell script even, that calls an agent through a CLI command, and it passes in a prompt saying, hey, open this file and then do X, Y, and Z. And we could be very deterministic about this. Whereas with agents, it's probabilistic, right? If you ask the agent, hey, um, do X, Y, and Z, it might not do X, Y, and Z. It might do X and Z or just something else altogether. But if we supplement that with something that's deterministic, we have a shell script, for example, that says to load this exact file, then we are now making up for one of those weaknesses. And it's this rhythm, this cadence that you create between deterministic and probabilistic that I believe will really innovate. And the way that you do that how you do that, being creative with that is what's important now more than ever. Being able to think outside of the box, being able to keep up with all of these ever-evolving tools, and then being able to combine those skills together along with other soft skills and leadership skills. It's pretty wild. But yes, well, you guys can search this and read about it on your own. I think it's super exciting, of course. And right, that's that's where we're at. Um, but let's rewind a bit. Let's get back to talking about our lab today, which is a multimodal lab. I shared these two commands with you. So if you run them, you can you can use stable diffusion and realistic vision to generate images. That's pretty creepy, but oh, you're gonna need this too. So let me share this. It's just a very simple script. I mean, really, at this point, I think you guys are um, equipped enough with prompting skills and prompt management skills that you could probably create this on your own, but I'll share it anyway. That's another thing too, right? Being able to not just know how to prompt an agent now, but knowing how to write, optimize, and maintain skills, tools, etc. for agents. Okay, so that's this is a very simple script. Am I sharing the right one? Why do I not see? This looks import hash lib. What is wrong with my copy paste? Oh, I'm being a derp. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay, there it is. Yeah. Arg parse, blah, blah. Support extensions. Right. So grab this. If you grab this and you grab a few models. So you'll need these, and then you'll need to have something like a models directory inside of a .env file. Should be able to run this. Should be all you need. And I'm trying to think. I do think that's all you need to run this. So this will generate an image. You could use that image then inside of our multimodal lab. And let's pull up the lesson for that. I'm actually probably just gonna skim through this very briefly. It's pretty easy to put together. Um, and run it like once or twice. And we'll talk through it right now too. Where is this? Okay. All right, so you all went over the lesson earlier. More or less, we are just using what was covered in the lesson inside of our lab. So you'll have your project set up. You'll install. Ooh, let me actually add to this. Did I? Shoot, I did not add it there. Maybe if I do this. Okay, there's accelerate. This had Photo 3, Chroma DB, Pillow. Also add torch, diffusers, transformers. This I think you'll need for the image generation, not so much this lab. I tried running whatever Eric had in here and it wasn't working for me. So I had to add these other libraries to get Stable Diffusion to work. And there's one more, accelerate, accelerate, accelerate. Not critical, but helps. And you get a warning too. If you were to run it without accelerate, it tells you, hey, run accelerate and it'll go faster because that's what acceleration is. And let me save that. Oh, let me change one more thing here. These models, I think this is something else y'all was talking about when I first got in. The speed of change and innovation. These models are already legacy. Do I have that command? Right. So it's crazy how fast things change. I think Eric just wrote this. I mean, definitely earlier. Well, oh my God, it's already 2026 last year. And right, the models that he had used were already legacy. And even the models that Claude suggested when I told it to fix it were legacy. So I had to switch mine to, where is this? Right. You'll probably see 3 or 4 of these. You can just Command F, replace the model with one of these. The script I gave you will also output this. Actually, no, it won't. I lied. That's been placed in here. That is that is generated by this. It's just a few lines of code. Basically, in addition to instantiating the Bedrock runtime, we also just do Bedrock, and we use this to list foundational models. So let me also share that. And just to run through, no, not that one. Let's run through the image generation real quick. So we get the models directory, we list models, we prompt for the model, we load this pipeline. So grabbing the path that we have set inside of the environment variable, we find the model that we want. We then pass it through this stable diffusion pipeline, which we just grab from this diffusers. Why is it not showing me? Bummer. Should have used VS Code. Oh, one of the guys yesterday at that subcommittee kept insisting that anti-gravity is going to be the next big thing. I mean, he works for Google, so I don't know how true that is. But if you haven't yet, play around with anti-gravity.
Like not physical anti-gravity. Anti-gravity is some sort of technology. And
Uh, yeah. Oh, nah, actually,
Like the
it's
Google one.
yeah, the Google one. It's just
okay,
another.
so not the ability to turn off gravitational forces between
I
objects.
mean, if
Okay.
you can do that, Nick, like
Well, he said it's the next big thing. So maybe he knows something I don't. I don't know. I couldn't do it.
you never know what they're doing at CERN.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't it turned off right now for a couple years? Anyway, anti-gravity not it's a thing like a code thing, not a physical thing.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just another IDE.
Okay.
What
I don't know. I just like VS Code right now with the cloud integration.
well, that's the thing. Like this is also based on VS Code. It's pretty much it's like Cursor. Like they're both like essentially just VS Code with additional things. Not really extensions, I guess integrations, different panels, etc. I think what would be really cool actually, and there's something to think about is creating your own VS Code, which you could probably do with Claude.
And that's giving a lot of weight to the you could. Like, sure, I could. No, I plus my friendly model can. Yeah. So I'm like, everything I'm like, okay, on my portfolio, I'm like, yes, this was built with Claude. It's like I can't, because if you sit me down in front of a computer and like ask me to recreate this without Claude, nope. I look back at my other files that I've done. Anyway.
The funny thing is,
What about a Jarvis?
isn't the Iron Man thing? I don't really watch super.
Yeah, exactly. What about a Jarvis?
That's it's just like sort of where everything is trending though, right? So like that's the funny thing. It's
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of I think so, but there's going to be limitations on what systems you're allowed to use, right? And so you need to be able, in theory, you need to be able to do it without the help. Because what I've been seeing is that people say that like, yes, if we're going towards that, then what you bring to the table, yes, is like your organizational skills, your creativity, the human ingenuity, like that smell test when something's not right. But, I think that's the whole point of like you can't really tell if something's wrong if you're learning it or having like, okay, you have um coding in a new language that you've never coded before because now you can. And like you're not going to know if it's doing something wrong until it doesn't do what you want it to. Like the result project doesn't do what you want it to do, but you don't know if there's a whole bunch of tech debt. You don't know if there's a way to optimize the cost in a better way that like a senior engineer would know. So it's just kind of, yeah, well, I don't have the time to become a senior engineer. So this is what I got and this is what we're going with. So
That's a fair point. That is a fair point. And
yeah,
yeah,
how do I do that? How do I become the senior engineer when it's technology is moving at the speed of light, right? And like I don't have time to do the mile deep. I have the time to do the mile wide. And so that's just it's frustrating.
very fair. But the obstacle becomes the way, right? That friction is what helps forge the skills and
Yeah.
the experience you need to get ahead of the game. So, right, we were going through this. So it loads the pipeline. We then have a generate image script. We are in here loading the pipeline that we are using to load the model. We are passing in things like a string and negative prompt parameters. And you can pass that in when you call this as well. So it's a very straightforward script. It does all that. It's then all put together inside of a main method. And it's just, again, combining a bunch of arguments. And as we saw, if we run that, then we see this in our CLI, and then we get whatever image we asked for. Did I open this one? Oh, that is frightening. That is very frightening. That's nightmare fuel right there. So that's apparently Spider-Man riding
What was the
a
prompt? In space riding a horse?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it tried to make the horse as Spider-Man.
Yeah. So I think we did get slightly better results with what was again a realistic vision versus stable diffusion. But then again, I think it's a very weak version of stable diffusion that we are running. I haven't even checked yet to see essentially how much space either of these is taking up, but now you all have two image generating models accessible to you. I mean, you could probably think of like some very simple use cases for this. Avatar generation for a front end tool. Right. So that is the image generation. And once we have that image generation, we could pass that into our multimodal lab, which is going to expect an image at some point, multiple points actually. So we want to be able to encode an image, ask about that image, and get a response. Right, here's the analyze image method. We're just calling that ask about image that we created. And right, we're just stringing all this together to make a very simple agentic flow. Okay, so again, it's a very straightforward lab. Piece it together fairly quick. Let's see it in action. Is this it? No. One of these is it. I lost it. Let's see. Let's just do Python multi. Okay, I guess I wasn't passing in any arguments. I thought I was. So if I run this lab, oh, that first step is the thing that lists models. Uh, it's doing its image analysis. It's saying it's Spider-Man in this classic costume, depicted in a dynamic pose as he swings or falls through space. The superhero is shown upside down, and I think it's referring to this one. Unless where were we? Oh, is it? It looks like it's talking about the Nightmare Fuel one.
I do think that I like that it critiques like you shouldn't be doing this. It doesn't help your business. Like it doesn't answer your question. Um, I feel like well, it doesn't similar to how we do the judge, like in theory, it should take a look at the prompt and then take a look at this output. Obviously, it's not reading that like there's issues, but if it reads that there's issues um with it, because like it's none of it. So it's just calling that dynamic positioning, not the fact that none of that is anatomically possible. Like in theory, it should read that and be like, okay, this is a messed up image. I need to try again.
Right, in theory.
Was the prompt that was passed?
Or the image analysis.
For the entire, what was the master prompt that was passed? We sent an image.
Let's see. We're actually like
Okay,
stringing.
we asked it, how is performance in Q3? What's the Apple stock price? How many employees do we have? Describe the chart.
That's that's
That's in test agent. Is test agent called in main?
yes. Could be. Or is it actually? Yeah.
There we
Yeah.
go. Okay.
And then before that, we have the image analysis. So what do you see? But we also that's combined with this up here. Oops. Which was to describe this image and what is wrong with it. So let's try that. See if it gives us another response, a better response. Well, better subjective, more accurate response. Okay, this image shows Spider-Man in his, let's, get it up here just as a visual. So that's this. This image shows Spider-Man in his classic red and blue costume appearing to be falling or swinging through space with a colorful cosmic background featuring stars, planets, and nebula-like formations. So that's the same. What's wrong with the image is that Spider-Man appears to have two heads. This is apparently the normal head. There's this normal mask head at the top and what looks like another Spider-Man head positioned where his torso chest area would be. This creates an anatomically impossible and surreal double-headed appearance that makes the image look like a digital art error or intentional artistic distortion. Okay. The cosmic space setting, while visually striking, is also somewhat unusual for Spider-Man because he's typically portrayed swinging around New York City. All right, cool. So that was the first part. Of course, it runs the rest of what we saw in that prompt, or sorry, that method that combines all of those different other methods in these different prompts. And we're seeing that it's able to choose from various tools that have been defined. If we look, analyze image was one of those tools. Yes, Cam.
So the other portion of the output about like you have Spider-Man in an image, and you have like stocks and all that stuff. So they're getting that data through API, through an API.
I
Because we
think
input the image, where did the file get the stock stuff?
which stuff?
The stock data was hard coded earlier, Cam, as an example, I think.
Oh, okay.
It just returns a hard coded response for testing purposes, right? At
Mhm.
least that's what I saw earlier.
Yeah, yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, but definitely try integrating an API and replacing any hard-coded data with a better example. So that's essentially all this is. It lets you see how to create some very simple tool configurations, how to create methods for them, and then how to test that. Right, there's that. I don't know why it's oh, it's passing both of those because the method probably accepts. Oh yeah, it takes in the string and then the image path. Not and it's not necessarily doing anything that combines the two. So very simple flow. And here we have a response to that simple hard-coded query. And it's just making stuff up. Cool. So run through the lab, run through the challenge. I'll open up breakout rooms. Um, and we will meet back at 1 o'clock.
Julius, I have another question.
Sure.
When say we wanted to pull via API, is it best to just pull it and then just return the answer? Or is it best to pull and store it and then pull from that store?
I mean, it depends on your use case. Yeah, but you're
Yeah.
generally though, you'll probably want to store it. If you store it, you'll be able to manipulate it more easily.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay.